Hey guys, obviously not home. I guess we'll call this shooting on location. I'm on an adventure and been meaning to do this for a while. This is going to be my review of The Joker. At this point, I don't think I can say a whole lot and it'd be spoilery. The movie's been out a while. I saw it late, partly because I was working, partly because I had to work myself into the right frame of mind to see it because I knew it was the sort of movie that, under normal circumstances, I would probably not go see in the theaters. I'd wait for it to come out on video, DVD, what have you. And this was kind of the case, period. I can honestly say I didn't honestly enjoy it. It's an interesting movie. It's probably even a good movie, but it's not what I would call an enjoyable movie. I don't even know if you can call it a comic book movie. It's about the Joker, but it's not the Joker as we know and understand him in comic books. It's not the Clown Prince of Crime. It's not Mark Hamill's uh, happily homicidal Joker. Excuse me. This story, to me, was social commentary. It takes place in the early 80s, 81, from what I've learned. And this means we're coming off of Carter's stagflation. We're not quite to the prosperity for some people that Reagan's supply side economics gave us, or gave again some people. I'm a farm kid, and I can tell you that supply side trickle down economics didn't do anything for us. And Gotham City is as bleak a place as you would ever want to see. The whole story revolves around Arthur Fleck, a man with mental issues. We learn later in the film he's also the victim of abuse. He himself does not remember it. He's raised by a woman who herself has mental issues. The impetus of the story begins with him seeing his counselor, and he sees her twice during the film. The second time he sees her, she tells him their program's being shut down. He's not going to be able to receive his medication anymore. But by this point, I actually think he stopped taking it anyway. And he tells her, "You don't do me any good. You don't even listen to what I'm telling you. You tell me you ask me, do I have negative thoughts? All I have is negative thoughts." He's a clown and he wants to be a comedian, and he sucks horribly at both. This is probably the result of both his mental illness and the way he's been brought up. Um, there's never a point where he basically turns to crime as a way of getting rich. The whole film seems to be about him gaining notoriety, is the phrase that comes to mind, but it's not notoriety in terms of like he wants to be famous. It's notoriety in terms of he wants the world to pay attention to him, acknowledge him in some form or fashion. Um, Once he quits his meds, he becomes delusional and more, I guess I'll say, accidentally violent. He doesn't mean to be violent at first. It's arguably even self defense. But later, it becomes sort of a murder suicide thing. When he does gain some notoriety, it's through ridicule. He's asked to go onto a TV show, a local Gotham TV show. I guess it would be something like, a large studio in Chicago or New York, like WG in Chicago, but it's in Gotham. And his original intention when he goes on the show is to kill himself on television. Instead, he ends up killing the show host who's a kind of Johnny Carson figure played by Robert De Niro. Um, he has a moment in the show where he says, I am the result of what happens when the world neglects people like me. So to me, this whole thing isn't really necessarily about the Joker, the comic book villain. This is social commentary. This is a critique on our world where people who do suffer from mental illness, who do need help and support, do not get it. It's also possibly, very possibly, and maybe even probably, social commentary on the very, very large growing gap between the haves and the have-nots. Um, Arthur Fleck and his mother live in a very rundown, ratty apartment. The mother, at one point, apparently worked for Thomas Wayne and has an obsessive compulsive relationship or fixation on him. The Waynes, of course, are the Waynes, Gotham's first family. And Thomas Wayne is not cast in the light that he is normally cast in. He's not a altruistic savior for the city. He's a kind of comes across really as a piece of shit. No two ways about it. So that's a very different way of portraying Thomas Wayne. I don't want to give away too much, just in case there are people who have not seen the movie. It ultimately ends with the Joker loose for a short period of time in Gotham. He ends up in Arkham. He never feels like the Joker to me. He makes you uncomfortable. There's a sort of patheticness to him that I've never associated with the Joker. And that's probably a choice by the director and the actor. I could see Joaquin Phoenix getting an Oscar nod for this. It's a very big departure for the director from the movies he's done prior to this, which is to say the Hangover movies. And these are not comedies in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I don't laugh once. I don't so much as smile through the whole thing. I'll be honest, there were times I was checking my phone during the movie because it just really didn't grab me at all. Maybe it should have. Maybe that's a fault on me. You do have the birth of Batman moment, as I call it, towards the end of the movie. You have the death of Martha and Thomas Wayne in an alley with Bruce standing over their bodies. One thing that occurred to me was Bruce is 9 years old or so when his parents are killed. And Joaquin Phoenix, I'm not sure exactly how old Arthur Fleck is supposed to be, but Joaquin Phoenix is 44 years old. So Bats is going to have a definite physical advantage over Joker when push comes to shove if they carry it in that direction. Ultimately, I think it's an interesting movie. It's a movie I think people probably do need to watch. I can't call it a good movie. Definitely not an enjoyable movie. Let me say that instead of a good movie. I don't think it's about the Joker, though. And that's the position I have to walk away from with. It's a movie about people who need help, who don't get it, and the consequences of that. But I don't necessarily think it's about the Joker. That's my take on it.